guys, this is part 2 to the real estate. I'm just kind of doing brief, explanations. This is not going to be like super in depth like you're in real estate school. But this is if you already own a home. The process to move from a house when you already own a home, even if it's not paid off, to another home is a lot trickier than when you're going from a renter to your first home. And this is usually something that nobody ever bothers to tell you about. Your feelings of when you're a renter and you get your first home is you are on top of the world and you feel so happy and so proud and just so ecstatically excited. It gets a little tricky when you own a home that you're not renting and you want to move or upgrade or just move to another home that you want to purchase with a home loan. A little bit tricky. It gets harder. So, here's some questions. If you're thinking about putting your first house on the market, you've only bought one house before in your life, and you're in it, and you'd like to move. You either have crappy neighbors, that the neighborhood's going down the toilet, or you bought a house that was on the small side because it was your first home and you didn't have children or you just had one. But now, 15 years later, 20 years later, you need a bigger place. You not only own more stuff than when you went from a apartment rental situation to your first home. You've lived in your first home for many years, let's say. You've accumulated a lot more stuff. And maybe you've got more children, maybe you do foster care now, maybe you've adopted children, whatever the scenario is, you need a bigger place. Maybe your first home didn't have hardly any yard to it. Now you'd like to garden, you'd like to have a large yard for maybe dogs or, whatever your hobbies or interests are, that is your next chapter in life. So, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open up the phone book in the yellow pages under realtors, real estate. And you're going to write down about 3, sometimes 4 different realtors from different real estate companies, brokerages. And you're going to call them on the phone. And you're going to pay attention to several things because it's very important to establish the right personality fit with your realtor and you, or you and your significant other, in this moving experience process. You can pick these up at Dollar Tree for $1. Super cheap. Let me open it here. So, open it up to the month that you're on, that you're calling these real estate professionals, right? And you're going to write the name of the real estate professional and their phone number, and you're going to write what time you called them, and write VM, meaning I left a voicemail message if they don't answer when you call them. You're going to do this for every one of them. And why? Because you want a real estate professional that's responsive. You don't want to call a real estate agent. We're in July. Today is the 28th, Sunday. So Monday, the 29th of July. You don't want to call them and you left a voicemail, okay? And now we're flipping into August. And let's say the real estate agent calls you back on August 5th. Okay? You called July 29th, a Monday. There's 3 days left in July. And the real estate agent didn't even return your phone call until Monday, August 5th. Would you consider that a responsive, attentive real estate professional? My answer would be, no, you would not. You want a real estate agent that when you contact them, within 24 to 48 hours 48 hours to me is even getting iffy. At least within 24 hours, they either email you, text you, or call you back. In your voicemail, I suggest you tell them how you want them to respond back to you. You don't want to text, you don't want an email, you want to talk and hear their voice, hear their personality. You want to talk to them on the phone. Then you put that in your voice with you. And leave your name clearly and slowly, and your phone number clearly and slowly. I cannot tell you how many times as a real estate agent, I had people ramble off their name and their phone number, and I can barely understand them. Or you know how when you're on your cell phone and you're holding it like this, and you know you're doing things, you're multitasking and you're talking, your phone cuts out, people. Your phone cuts out. So while you're saying a word, half that word cut out. Now we can't understand you. We're getting bits and pieces of your message and trying to piece it together. So that's why you want to get $1 at the Dollar Tree planner calendar, and you want to write the name, first and last name, and the phone number, and the time you called, and put VM that you left a voicemail. See how long it takes the real estate agents to contact you back. Because a crappy real estate agent will bring nothing but nightmares, and you will lose out on properties you were absolutely in love with if you have an incompetent real estate professional. That's not a professional, you know? They have to know their stuff, they have to be responsive, they have to be responsible, and they have to put your interests above everything because they're working for you. They're getting paid off of you buying a property, okay? All right, now, you're already in a house and you're thinking about putting it on the market. So after you've called your 3 or 4 real estate professionals, and let's say 2 out of the 4 called you back within a reasonable time frame, and you're talking with them, I want you to say that you are thinking about listing your property for sale, and you are interviewing realtors for the next 2 weeks, because it is important to you to find a real estate professional that you feel you're on the same page, the communication's good between both of you, between all parties, and someone that you can trust, and you don't know them from Shiola, they're strangers to you. So you need to find a really good rapport between you and your real estate professional, your buyer's agent. So tell them you would like to get a free market analysis written report on the value, current value, of the market today or this week, and you would like to schedule an appointment for them to come out and look at your property inside and out, the good things, the bad things, the good, the bad, the ugly, okay? And then give them 2-3 days to prepare the report in writing, to print everything out, the comps, what other homes that are like yours. There's a lot of variables, so it's a ballpark figure. So if someone comes back and says, well, based on your 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-car garage, blah, 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 the other, whether you have a big yard, small yard, where your house is located, what the neighbors are like, is there a business, industrial business or something across the street, that all plays a part in the value. They're going to give you what's called a fair market analysis report, okay? That's a ballpark figure. It's not etched in cement. It doesn't mean you're going to get right up to this dollar amount. That's not what that means. It's just giving you a ballpark figure of what the market currently shows, a ballpark figure of what your home should be somewhat priced around, okay? So if I'm just throwing a figure up there. If they say, well, your property's worth, it says, with this report, and they'll usually come in person, a good real estate agent, and they will go through the report with you or you and your significant other, so they can explain each page of the report, where they got their information, where they drew their data from, and explain it to you in person. So you're going to have to set an appointment for the real estate professional to come out to your home. That's one appointment. And there's going to be another appointment scheduled for when the report is completed and they come out and explain everything to you or to you and your spouse. Property is only worth what a buyer is willing to pay for it. All right? I could have a collector baseball card from 35 years ago, and just because in the state of Connecticut I could get $400 for the card doesn't mean in the state of Arkansas that I could get $400 for the same card. I might only be able to get $175 in Arkansas. But if I went to Connecticut, or if I went to Maryland, you know what I'm saying, I might be able to get far more. It's a ballpark figure. It is not etched in stone. Okay, so let's say that they've got the report done, they've scheduled it, so that's going to be 3 professionals. It's going to be a total of 6 appointments. An appointment for each real estate agent, buyer's agent, to come out and view your home. That's 3 appointments, just to come out and look at everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They have to see it in person. If they just take your address over the phone or over an email, and they do this whole report without coming out in person to look at the condition of your home, look at the condition of the floors, look at the condition of the counters, look at the condition of the walls, look at the condition of the mechanicals, meaning furnace, water heater, things like that. Roofs, roof conditions, deck conditions, drain spouts, things like that, okay? Then you do not have a professional real estate agent that is good at their job. They should always come out in person to view the property, to see with their own eyes, in person, the condition of your property. Then they should go back to their office and conduct the report. And in 2-3 days, when the report's complete, schedule an appointment to come out and explain the report. This is the professional way of doing things, the proper way, a competent real estate professional. All right? So now you get to decide on the personalities of the 3 agents or 4 agents that you've set these appointments for, and they each came out, explained their report. Do not always go with the agent that just throws out the highest number of what your ballpark market value of your house will be. A lot of people do that. Those are the agents that are desperate and hard up for clients. It is a dog-eat-dog world. There are thousands of real estate agents. More agents, basically, than there are sellers. Okay? And buyers. And so everyone is out for a client because you don't make any money until you have a client, and we don't make any money through the whole entire process until closing. That's when we get paid. All the work, all the driving, all the research, all the printing, all the calls, all the emails, everything that we do, we are doing for free on the front end of everything, and we don't get paid until close. And I'm telling you right now, make sure you pick a real estate agent that is doing things thoroughly and not taking shortcuts, giving you excuses. Oh, I've been sick. Oh, my child was sick with the flu for 3 days. So I'm sorry I couldn't get the report back to you until like almost 2 weeks later. You X that one out. Don't use her. Don't use her or him. Excuses are bullshit. They are. Point blank. If you got arrested for something criminal or non-criminal or whatever, are you going to give a shit what excuse your attorney gives when you show up at court and you're going to be hung, and your attorney don't show up, and then you hear from them 5 days later after you're sitting in a jail cell? I'm sorry, my mother died. I'm sorry, my dog died. I'm sorry, my child was sick. I'm sorry, I had surgery. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. They shouldn't have taken you on as a client if they can't perform the work. It's that simple, folks. You've got to be like this or you're going to be screwed over, because America is all about greed. And unfortunately, if you don't look out for yourself, who else is gonna? So I'm trying to open your eyes to a lot of different things that you need to pay attention to. Okay, so you pick a realtor, okay? One that you've got good rapport, they're responsive, they did everything thoroughly, they answered your questions, they explained the report, you had no questions left unanswered. And so now you're going to talk about when would you like to put your property on the market. Okay, so they're going to need to come out and take pictures of the inside, the outside, any amenities, the garage, decks, ponds, anything that could be a selling point on your property. Okay, and you tell them, you know, when you'd like to put the house on the market if that's what you're ready to do. Now, when you put your house on the market, a good thing to keep in mind, don't be a super cheapskate, okay, as a seller. Think about how you felt and the things that were important to you when you first bought your house, coming from a renter situation to a first-time home buyer. A good selling point is offer a 1-year home warranty. That runs about $500-$600 for the year. Okay? And you can pay that at closing. You can pay it at closing. You don't have to come up with it up front while your house is on the market. At closing, offer a 1-year home warranty protection plan. That covers roof, covers electrical, covers plumbing, covers dishwashers. Get a good home warranty company that offers, you know, look through the plan. Give that first-time buyer a home protection plan. That takes the worry off of the first-time home buyer who's already scared because this is the biggest purchase of their life, right? Do you remember those days? Give them worry-free for the first year, because that takes a lot of stress and it draws in first-time home buyers to want to look at your property over the next 2,000 properties that are on your side of town for sale at the same time. Okay? It's a competition to get people in and through your house. Now, you decide if your real estate agent is going to have to be present for all showings, even if they're not showing it themselves. It's another agent from another brokerage bringing their clients through your house. You decide if, you know, you want your real estate agent to always be present for every showing, or if you want to be present for every showing. Why do I bring this up? My house got damaged in a couple different areas. One, someone put their heel through the drywall and it didn't break it all the way through to where it was a big black gaping hole, but it crushed the drywall into, you know, it was still not a big gaping hole, but it was smashed in from someone's heel that hit the wall. And someone else tried lifting up the counter in my kitchen of the house that I moved from to move here in the country, and it cracked the wood wall. It was wood planking. It looked like the inside of a ship, that house did. And you'll probably see some of that in previous videos on my channel before we moved here. And it cracked the wall about this frickin' long, right under by the wall and where the counter met. So you're going to want to think about that, because no realtor is going to admit that it was their clients that damaged your house. Nobody will ever fess up. They'll all claim, we didn't do it, my people didn't do it, no, I was with them the whole time. No, realtors do not stay with their clients. They tell their clients to go look through the property, and the real estate agent's looking at the stuff she's interested in, and she's putting it in the back of her mind bank to tell other clients that are buyers of hers, to see if this property would match some other buyers she or he has currently or whatever, not just the buyers they're bringing through at this moment. I've had people come through my property with kids. They don't watch their kids. The adults are talking to the realtor's talking to the adults, the kids are running amok through the place, and nobody's watching the kids because they're all predetermined distracted with their own agenda and what they're all excited about at the moment as they're walking through your house and their kids are terrorizing your place. Now, if you stay present during every showing to be there, do not become a car salesman as the homeowner. That is not your job, and that is going to deter anybody from buying your house. Do not sit there and wheel and deal like you're a car salesman every time an agent brings their people through your house. You tell them, feel free to open drawers, closets. I want you to see if this place will work for you. If it stays with the house because it's part of the house, you're free to open it. Open drawers, open closets. If you have any questions after you tour the house, feel free to ask me. If I know the answer, I will be more than happy to answer it. Then you keep your mouth shut and you stay sitting in the living room. You don't follow them around like an owl. You don't wheel and deal and, oh, I paid this much for this and I redid this in this room and we put a new roof over it. No, don't do that. Do not do that. You stay sitting in your living room. You turn your TV down low, not blaring, and you sit there and you act mature. You are not the car salesman. You are not the real estate agent. These people are coming through your house with their own agent. They've got the property disclosure that lists every penny you've spent, everything you've replaced, what year you replaced it. They don't need your mouth doing this in their ear, following them around your house, trying to wheel and deal. Don't do it, okay? Promise me, don't do it. And when they leave, tell them, thank you very much for viewing my home. I hope you have a great day. That's it. Nothing else. You don't say anything else. Nothing, okay? These are important tips I'm giving you, folks. Okay, so let's say your house is on the market. It's been on the market for a week or two. And maybe you've only had one showing. Meaning, one realtor appointment where you had to either leave the house or you stayed but you kept your mouth quiet and you let him look through your place and leave him alone. Leave him alone. Okay? Let them come to you if they want to ask something. You don't start looking for properties to go make offers on until you get an offer that you're seriously considering accepting. Why? How are you going to coordinate the closing of your house if you haven't even had an offer or you haven't even had a showing yet and there's been no offers coming across the table? How are you going to coordinate that closing of the house you're currently living in and let's say you have to sell that house you're in order to move to another place, right? How are you going to coordinate the closing of this house you're living in and the house that you haven't even, or that you've made an offer on right out of the gate? People don't generally want to close more than 60 days out. That's like usually the furthest that anyone wants to entertain closing on. You get what I'm saying? You start looking desperately when you basically have an accepted offer on your house. That's when you get serious. That's when every free moment of your time you're looking at properties. That's the time to do it. You don't put your house on the market and the first week or second week you're out looking at properties and you don't even have an offer, let alone I don't even know if you've even had a showing yet, and you're making offers on other properties. Can you carry 2 mortgages? Because what's going to happen is the place that you're making an offer on, if they accept it, it's an offer with a contingency, which is like the worst offer ever. Sellers don't want offers with contingencies. We'll buy this place and we'll agree to pay you this much if we can sell our house, because we have to sell our house first, in order to get your place that you're selling. That's not the optimum offer that any seller wants to hear. We want offers that they're willing to close in 30 days. You see what I'm saying? And it's not contingent on them selling anything. That's the optimum offer. And so when you make an offer with a contingency, what if it takes 8 months to sell your house that you're in, that you have to sell first in order to buy another home? So now here's 8 months of time that you've made an offer that they've accepted and everyone signed their paperwork. It's still not concrete. You can still be booted out of it because it's a contingency offer. So now you've got 8 months of how many people coming through that place still, and someone makes an offer with no contingency. They don't have to sell nothing, and they're offering more money than what you offered those sellers with a contingency of, but we have to sell this house first. You're going to be knocked out of every offer. Do you see what I'm saying? You're going to be kicked out of the game probably 9 out of 10 times. And you're not going to get that property that you think for 8 months or for 3 months after you made this contingent offer. What are you going to do? Keep cutting the price and cutting the price and cutting the price and now you're losing money? Because the more money you make on your current home that you're in, that's more money you can put down or put some in savings and put most of it down on your next place to make the more expensive place you're moving to the house payment less. More accustomed to what you've been accustomed to paying in your house now that you have for sale. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, let's say you bought a house for $100,000. Your first house was $100,000, but now you're going to buy a place that's $180,000. Well, that's going to be a lot more of a house payment a month with insurance and property taxes, and all this stuff has risen since when you bought your house, your first house that you're currently trying to sell. So the more money you make off the house that you're trying to sell, the more money you can put down on the next one that you're moving to make that house payment closer to what you're already accustomed to paying. Do you see what I'm saying? So you don't start looking for a place until you get an offer. And if you're afraid that you don't want to close in 30 days with the accepted offer of a buyer, then just put in, we want a 60-day closing or 90-day closing, and explain we need to find a place. And then you start hitting the pavements like you've never hit before. Boom, 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 boom. Start searching for property. And you should be able to find a place within 60 to 90 days. And there's no contingency on your offer because you've already got it sold. You know, you haven't closed on it yet, but everyone has signed their documents. There's no contingency on the buyers that are buying your current home. They don't have to sell nothing. You don't have to wait for 90 days or 8 months or, I'm sorry, we've tried everything. We just don't have a buyer yet. We're trying. You know, that could mess up everything. So a seller doesn't want an offer with a contingency. That's like bottom of the barrel offer, even if you offered them full price, because you have to sell something first in order to get that loan to move forward. So don't start looking for a property until you get an accepted offer on your current home, if you have to sell this home first to move forward. Now, if you're wealthy enough and you can carry 2 mortgages for maybe a year, worst case scenario, then it's a little bit different ball game. Then you can start looking right out of the gate as soon as you put your house on the market. You can start looking for other properties because you can afford to pay the house payment if it's not paid off on the current home you're in that you're selling, and you can afford to make a house payment on the place you're moving. Right? You can carry 2 mortgages at the same time until this one sells, and you're okay. But most people don't have that kind of finances. But if you do, you're the fortunate few. So here's the scenarios for people that are not wealthy and they have to sell their current home in order to get the loan and the down payment to move forward. Here's your scenarios. A, you shorten the gap between the closing of the house that you're currently in and you're selling and the house that you make an accepted offer on with no contingency. You want that gap to be as close together as possible to each other. That means stop looking for properties and making offers on properties until you get an accepted offer on your current house that you have for sale. You want 60 days, find a place in 60 days. If you can't find a place in 60 days, then you're going to have to rent an apartment or rent a trailer or rent someplace so that you're able to find a place. You've sold your house, the new buyers have bought it, they've got the keys, you've got all the money in your bank. Find out from your real estate agent for the area you're in how long you have to purchase another home using the profit over what you owed the bank for the house that you sold, that you just sold. How long do you have before you have to pay the penalty on capital gains, the profit you made over what you owed the bank for the current home that you just sold, that you wanted to move from, okay? Then you're going to rent a place so that you can continue to look. The new buyers are in, you've gone to the closing, the money's in your bank, don't touch it, that's for your new house, and rent a place. Find a landlord, explain to them we're in the process of buying a house. We haven't found one, but we sold the house that we were living in, so we don't want a year lease. We would like to do month to month, or we would like to do 3-month lease, 3-month lease, 3-month lease, until we find our home and get an accepted offer and, and do it that way. Or, here's another scenario. Do you have family or friends you could stay with and put all your life belongings in storage and pay for the storage units? I had 3 storage units, the biggest storage units you can get. And I paid for all 3 for over a year so that my house wouldn't be too cluttered for, putting it on the market. And we sold our house in the city before we even found this place. We didn't even know this place existed. We had nowhere to move. We had found this after we already accepted an offer on our home in the city. And they were closing, and their close date, they wanted 30-day closing. So to not lose the buyer, we agreed. Well, that meant we had to be out, and we had to put all of our entire life ownings of objects in storage. And we rented a crappy, sleazy motel for 2 weeks. Why did we go to a sleazy motel? Because I had 3 dogs. And nice hotels want $200 to $300 deposit per dog per week. I didn't want to pay that. I was already paying for 3 storage units, huge storage units. So I went to a sleazy motel for 2 weeks. I didn't have to pay any deposit, and I was allowed to have my dogs in the room. And we stayed there for 2 weeks. In the meantime, after we had, signed all the paperwork and we knew when the closing was going to be for the buyers of our house in the city, we found this place. We made an offer. They accepted it. And we knew that our closing was going to be in 30 days. Well, we had 2 weeks between when we sold our house in the city and being able to get the keys and have the closing to the acreage, to the homestead. There was a 2-week gap in there. We had nowhere to go. We didn't have family and friends we could stay with. There was no other option. So we stayed and we did what we had to do because that's how bad we wanted to live in the country. We did not want to live in the city. We wanted our own land. We wanted to grow our own food, have animals if we chose, whatever. That's how bad we wanted it. You do what you got to do. I didn't feel safe in the sleazy motel. As a matter of fact, the last 2 days we were there, one guy that was like a door or 2 down from us got arrested for prostituting women out of his room. I did not feel safe there at all. But I did what I had to do. It was only 2 weeks out of my whole life, right? So I have an 18-year-old son, I had 3 dogs, my husband and myself, and we stayed in the hotel for 2 weeks until this closed, this homestead. Then we got the keys and moved everything out of our storage units. And it was an hour drive one way from the storage unit in the city that we moved from to the homestead. To the storage unit to the homestead. I rented 2 26-foot U-Haul trucks, and we filled them twice, and then had to pay the mileage and the gas and fill the tank to return the trucks and all that. So you have to take this stuff into consideration and make sure you've got the finances for it. I think I got the hotel, the sleazy hotel, I think was almost $500 for 2 weeks. Yep. And I don't remember how much the U-Haul trucks were. That was probably about $800. So you're going to have to take this into your calculations of moving. If you have maybe friends that have a cabin in the woods and they don't live there all year round, or they have a beach house depending on where you live, maybe they have a beach house and they don't live there all year round. Ask them, tell them what you're doing, and say, is there any way that you would allow us to be able to stay at the cottage or the beach house? We're going to put all of our stuff into storage. We're going to pay for storage units. It would just be like a suitcase for each of us of our clothes and the necessities. Would there be any possibility that we could pay you a couple $100 if we need to stay there for a month or something until we close from selling this place to buying this place, you know? But these are the things that you have to think about, because it's really difficult and almost impossible to sync it where you're closing and you found a place and you have an accepted offer and the closing matches up identical to the place you're selling to the place you're moving. There's usually a gap. And you're homeless basically, unless you've got family or friends or, you know, something like that. So I wanted to do a video for those that have only purchased a house once before and they're wanting to move to another house, to their second house. It's not as easy when you're coming from a renter situation to a first-time home buyer. That's pretty much a piece of cake. You know, you just start looking a few months before your lease is up, and when you find something and you've got the credit rating and you've got 3.5% saved, you're in. It's easy peasy. But when you own a house and you're moving to another house you're going to own, not rent, it gets a little bit tricky and it gets a little bit nerve-wracking, and it's, you know, these are things that people just don't teach you and tell you about. So if you have any further questions of anything that maybe I forgot to mention or that I left out that you've been wondering about or have questions about, feel free to post it below, or ask me for my email and I'll give it to you, and I'll answer any questions that I possibly can. But remember, from state to state, there's different regulations, different real estate laws. So, you know, I might not know the answer if it's like, you know, an ordinance or something like that in your state and I'm not from your state. Okay, guys, I hope this helps some of you kind of have an idea to answer some of your real estate questions. Remember, this is in depth. It's just kind of touching base on some different topics that I wanted to kind of put out there for you. And when you buy a second home, you have to have 20% down. It's no longer 3.5% like your first home. 20% down. I forgot to mention that. And you're going to probably want to put down more than 20% if you want to have somewhat of a cheaper house payment. That's why it's so important that you try to get a decent amount of money for the house that your first home that you're selling to move to another one. Because the more you can put down on your second one, the cheaper it makes the house payment and the cost of living for you. Plus moving expenses, you're going to have to buy boxes. You know, you might be able to get some from a grocery store or whatnot, or Walmart, possibly. But you're still going to need to buy boxes and bubble wrap and shipping tape and, you know, all these expenses that maybe you didn't calculate in. Also, you might need to buy paint, or you might need to replace carpet or rip carpet out and put tile floor or wood floor or veneer floors or something in the place that you're moving to, depending on your financial situation and the condition of the property that you end up falling in love with. So there's a lot of things that you need to think about, but most important, don't look for a property and start making offers on any properties until you get an accepted offer on the house you're selling. Please, people, listen to that. Listen to that, okay? Or your gap between closing on the house you're selling and closing on the house that you find is going to be so far apart. You're going to have to carry 2 mortgages. And the average time frame, I'm not saying this happens for everybody, but the average time frame to sell a house is between 6 months and 10 months. That's the average. Now, does that mean that there aren't many people across the United States every day that sell their house within a week? No, there's lots of people that have sold their house in a week, but that's not typical. That's not the average, okay? It usually takes between 6 months, usually, and 10 months. It all depends on the market, and you're just waiting for that perfect, that right buyer to walk through your house and they fall in love with it. They see the potential, they see their family there, they see Christmases there. That's why it's important to remove photographs from your walls when you're selling and mementos. You don't want to put your stamp all over the house. You want people to walk through your house and be able to imagine their family there, their pictures on the wall, their loved ones hanging in the hallway. You see what I'm saying? You want to depersonalize your house when you're selling it so that other people can walk through and dream and imagine your house with their life, their loved ones in it, not yours. Okay, guys, I'm going to shut up. Have a great day. Blessings.